and welcome to This Week in Travel. I'm your host, Michelle Robson, and editor of Turning Left for Less. This week we have a special episode. I'm coming to you live from Château d'Esclans, which is the Chateau Whispering Angel in Provence in the south of France. I'll be talking to Tim Jackson, who is BA's new Master of Wine. But first, let's have a look at the news. There was good news this week with Heathrow and Edinburgh potentially ending their strikes. So at Edinburgh Airport, they have actually settled on a pay deal, so that should be the end of the threatened strikes. At Heathrow, it's a bit more complex. Terminal 5 and Terminal 3 security guards were due to go on strike almost every weekend over the summer. However, they've now made a new pay offer to the Unite Union and their members will be voting on it. So it could be a couple of weeks or possibly longer before we find out the results of it. However, the first strikes that were planned at the end of June on the 24th and 25th have been temporarily paused. We also saw the opening of the new first dining area in Terminal 3. This was originally rumoured to potentially be another Concorde room that has been dubbed Concorde Light by another blogger, but it looks more like it's going to be a reinvention of the former first dining area that was there before COVID. So there is a bar area, which there wasn't before. However, at the moment, this looks very temporary. It's basically a table with the tablecloth, which is a little bit wedding buffet looking, but apparently this is only temporary and there will be a proper bar. So it is a slight step up from what it was before. However, the bad news is that Gold Guest List members will not be able to access it. The only people that will be able to access it are people flying in first and British Airways Premier members, which are those that are invited to be a Premier member that are travel influencers of large travel budgets. So for most of us, we won't be able to access it. Hopefully, I'll be going for a look later this week, so I shall bring you some pictures from that next week. So I'm here in the south of France at the Château d'Esclans, which is Whispering Angel Chateau, with Tim Jackson, who is British Airways' relatively new Master of Wine. Thank you, Tim, for joining me in such a beautiful location.
My pleasure. What a place to be. Absolutely delightful.
And thank you for inviting me along. So Tim and I are here in the south of France tasting some wines that are going to be on board and also in the terminals. And it's not a bad job if you can guess it. I thought we'd start, Tim, by talking about how you started off being a Master of Wine, because like me, this is your, I think, third career and something you're obviously very passionate about. So how did you get from your original career, and tell us a bit about being a Master of Wine and what that involves?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. This is kind of my third career. So I started my career several years ago in kind of business strategy consulting, and then I moved into marketing. But ultimately, I've really followed my passion and made my passion my job, because then you kind of don't work a day in your life, as it were. And that passion started right back at university. Kind of coming to visit parts of France and kind of turning up at 9 o'clock in the morning in Chablis and in Burgundy and kind of working from there, really. And I started to learn more, taste more, and so on. And then after a few years, decided to take a qualification. So I thought I probably ought to know what I'm talking about a bit more. And over time did more qualifications until I joined the Master of Wine study program in 2013. And qualified 4 years later. And then once I had this qualification, which is it's kind of like the Everest of wine, you climb it because it's there, or I did anyway. I thought I probably should do something with this. So at the time, I was one of 375 Masters of Wine in the world. Now there are 414 of us. At that point, it was. I thought I probably should do something with this and follow my passion, and again make my passion my job. So the Master of Wine qualification is tough. It takes a lot of work to get there. So it's a minimum of 3 years of study, and you'll have done studies before that as well. So when I did have it, it kind of made sense to make use of it beyond just enjoying wine so much. So I've done some wine writing and some consulting work, and ultimately kind of joined BA first as a consultant, and then full time from February last year. As far as I'm aware, I'm the only Master of Wine who works full-time for an airline, although there are some of my colleagues who for example, do consulting work for some of the other airlines. But as far as I know, I'm the only Master of Wine who's employed full-time.
That's great. British Airways obviously really investing heavily in trying to get the right wines for their customers. So when you are putting together a wine list, and let's focus first on Club World, what is it you're looking for when choosing a wine and building that wine list?
Well, first and foremost, the wine's got to be good. It sort of goes without saying, but it is really important to get the best quality that we can, so customers can really enjoy every glass. But the second thing is to make sure it's going to be a wine that's also going to perform at altitude. So in the cabin, particularly the air is much drier. So it dries out your nose, and your sense of smell is almost the most important thing when you're eating or drinking anything. So all the kind of fruity components of the wine just get a little bit suppressed. So you want to make sure that you've got a wine at ground level that has plenty to it. So when you go to altitude, it'll still perform well, still be in balance, and still give the pleasure that we're looking for. But particularly for Club World, where the structure of our wine list is 2 white wines and 2 red wines. Within that's relatively small set, we're trying to appeal to as many people as possible. So we're trying to give a spread of styles of wine that are likely to be crowd pleasing to the greatest extent possible. And that's why we have, for example, we have a standing category of, you'll always have a Sauvignon Blanc on board, and you'll always have a Pinot Noir. So Sauvignon Blanc, it's kind of got that bright fruity style that tends to appeal to quite a lot of people. So you've got that style that's going to get pretty good mass appeal. But not everyone likes that. And the good thing about it is it's quite a different style than my other white wine is likely to be. So it gives me an opportunity to get a broad spread of styles that are likely to get as much appeal as possible, and also to match with as many different types of food that we might have flying at any one time. And similarly with Pinot Noir, again, it tends to have a pretty good core of fruit, so it's going to perform at altitude and it should have good appeal. The second thing is that with red wines, one thing that can challenge some consumers, some drinkers, is the tannins. So that's that element that kind of dries your gums like a cup of builder's tea does. Some people like tannins, some people don't. And Pinot tends to have relatively light, delicate tannins. So it will be a red wine that appeals to drinkers who like the slightly lighter tannin style. And also, again, it's likely to be a good contrast with my other reds. So that's why we're kind of structuring the wine list like that, to get as broad a spread as possible.
And how much does British Airways destinations influence your choices of wine?
Well, funny enough, of all the things that we've kind of brought in the last year or so, this is one I'm particularly proud of, that the theme for that other white wine and other red wine in Club, and indeed the third white and third red in First, as a collection of 4 wines, I've built a theme around that, which I call my destinations program. And what that is that each quarter, for that set of 4 wines, we focus on one particular destination that British Airways flies to that makes great wine. Something that's almost true about a lot of the wine world is wine places generally tend to be really nice places to be. I mean, we can see it here, right? So I wanted to connect what we do as a business, which is take people to lovely places, with our wine list, which is showcase wines from lovely places. And then wherever you're flying with us around the world, you'll be presented with wines from that place. It gives a bit of focus, but also hopefully gives people a bit of inspiration to come and visit some beautiful wine country. And we started in January, so the first quarter of the year, with wines from Cape Town. We fly direct overnight from London, and the Cape Winelands, as I think you know, they're really close to the airport. They're beautiful places, lovely granite mountains, restaurants, accommodation on vineyards, lovely people, lovely food, fantastic place. So it's a really lovely connection between, again, what we do as a business with the wine list that we're presenting. And indeed, the reason why we're here is that the destination for quarter 3 will be the Rhone Valley in Provence. We fly to Lyon, we fly to Marseille, we fly to Nice, and within that triangle, you have some of France's great kind of rich reds and interesting rosés and so on.
Yeah, it's funny. I was flying to Cape Town earlier in the year, and I looked at the wine list and Club and thought, well, that's funny. They've matched the destination to the wines. But of course, in fact, that was your choice for all of flights in January. And for those watching and listening, if you haven't been to Cape Town and you fancy it, we do have an episode just about Cape Town, visiting the winelands then. So I'll pop a link below to that specific episode. So moving on, Tim, from business class into First. When I fly, I notice there's always a red Bordeaux. What's the structure of the First wine list like, and how do you choose the wines there?
So in First, just as in Club World, we always have a standing category of Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, and indeed my destinations wines too. But on top of that, we have in whites, we always have a white Burgundy, and in reds, we always have a Cru Classé Bordeaux. And that's really a reflection of those kind of markers of fine wine and luxury. That's certainly are true for British drinkers and for a lot of other wine lovers around the world, which is kind of Bordeaux, Burgundy, and Champagne are almost the pinnacles of fine wine. And so we want to have those as standard categories. It has those moments of recognition and that sense of indulgence that is absolutely right to have in first. So those are our standing categories, and you always have either that kind of structured, savoury but sophisticated style of red Bordeaux that pairs so well with food, or you're going to get a bit of richness, but with that cut of lemon and flinty minerality that's so typical of Chardonnay from Burgundy. So it's an important part of that first proposition. And again, it gives us more different styles. So if you look at Pinot Noir, and then you've got the Cru Classé Bordeaux, again, you've got a difference of style, so you can appeal to as many people as possible.
And earlier you were saying about the dessert wines as well, that normally when I fly, I tend to notice as Sauternes, but you've got plans hopefully to have some slightly different wines from different parts of the world. Yep,
we will do. So generally our dessert wine, so we'll have a dessert wine, and of course we have a port as well, a lovely Tawny Port Down 2007 port. But for that dessert wine, generally, more often you're going to find it's a Sauternes. It's that lovely opulent style that's again so famous around the world. But we do and we will include some classic dessert wines from other parts of the world. So we've got a Tokai flying in the very near future. So from Hungary, the very famous Hungarian sweet wine, and we'll be on the lookout for interesting sweets from around the world.
I'll give you some recommendations, because I love a dessert wine, so I might have to book a flight now so I can have some Tokai on board. So moving on from the wines to other drinks, as obviously you're involved in choosing spirits and involved in looking at cocktails. First of all, to go to the hot question of the day for my readers that are cognac lovers, we've got cognac back in first, which I've been enjoying recently. How is the situation looking? Because I know there's a shortage of cognac and trying to get it back into club.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There is a bit of a shortage of cognac. We are working on it, and we will be bringing it back. But watch this space.
That's excellent news for me as well as a cognac lover. I'm looking forward to having a sip on board again. So if we look at cocktails, then you've had the partnership with Mr. Lion, which I've been lucky enough to try quite a few and met Mr. Lion on a previous trip with British Airways. And you have some cocktails on board, like your Johnny Ginger that I've noticed you've had on social media recently. Have you got plans to refresh those? Because obviously they've been around a while now.
Absolutely, yes, we do. You're absolutely right that Mr. Lion has done some really interesting work with our cocktails on the ground, and we're actively looking at how we refresh our onboard cocktail range as well right now. So again, watch this space. Obviously, we're not going to be reproducing a full bar service on the aircraft because there isn't the space, but we're absolutely going to be refreshing that range in the near future. So again, watch this space.
Great. I look forward to trying something new on board next time I'm flying in club. So just finally, I know talking about new things, you have something exciting on the horizon at Terminal 5. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, given where we are currently sitting?
Yeah, the context of our location is important for that. So we're in Chateau d'Esclans, who are the producers, as you said earlier, of Whispering Angel, perhaps the most famous rosé wine brand in the world. And we're delighted to be partnering with them to launch a Whispering Angel bar in T5B in the coming months. So this is part of that celebration. And beyond that, as part of our destination for Rhône and Provence, we're not just having a white and a red in first, we're having white, a rosé and a red in first, and we're going to be flying for July, August and September, just in time for the summer months, Rock Angel, which is Whispering Angel's kind of big brother in a leather jacket, as they say. So one to look out for when you're flying this summer.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Tim, not only for talking to me today, but bringing me to this amazing chateau in France. It's a tough job, but, we have to soldier on. And thank you for all your insight, and I look forward to trying all the new wines in the future. And for those watching and listening, I will be writing a full review of this trip and all the wines that you've got looked forward to in business and first class. So keep an eye out for that on Turning Left for Less. So I've just been tasting one of the red wines that's going to be in British Airways first class from July, and I'm really enjoying it. So it's something to look forward to if you're flying between July and September in first class. So I'm off to taste some more wines now, and that's the end of today's programme. Until next time, happy travels and cheers.